that maybe, oh, and we've got the new fancy thing. I don't know if it tells you guys, but it tells me that recording in progress. Makes me feel very progressive because my computer is talking to me. All right.
It told
well,
us
welcome,
to.
welcome. What? Oh, you get told that too?
Uh-huh.
Yay. Because I'd hate to surprise anyone and just be like, why didn't you tell me? I didn't know. Okay. So today we are going to be talking all about emotions, which is fortunate that we all have emotions. One of the, sometimes it's like, it would be nice not to, but in reality, it really is. So one of the main books that we're going to be using today is called Essential Emotions. And this is my go-to book for emotions, surprisingly enough. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen over here. Share screen. Because I can be technically advanced. Okay, let me see. I just want to share the screen. Okay, sure. All righty. So to move this. Okay. Get a drink. I talk my way through things because then I remember. All right, so this is the doTERRA page for the Aroma Essential Collections. And this is basically kind of my kit of the month. It's not just mine, it's doTERRA's, but it's a new kit, and I'm taking two different pathways. So last week we did the class on physically basically how to get rid of some of the toxins and replace them with natural products. And that's what this kit is. And we're going to have that class again next week. And I'll be teaching it again, so it won't be exactly the same. But I do have a link for the YouTube, my YouTube channel, so that if you want to, you can't wait because you're like, I have to know now, then I will get you the link after. Okay, because I am that good. Let's see. Okay, so we have the regular Aroma Essentials collection. And one of the things that I, just a very quick history about me, I graduated with my teaching degree to teach early childhood classes. So I'm licensed to teach between kindergarten to third grade. So if I do something that you're like, I feel like I'm in kindergarten, that's why. It's not you, it's me. And I'm okay with that. And I can remember what I'm telling you. Oh, maybe. What was I going to tell you? Okay, so anyways, the class will be, again, next week we'll be doing the how to get rid of the physical toxins in your life. And then the following week, we're going to be doing a repeat of this class, which is dealing with emotional toxins or toxic people. Oh, I remember where I was going with the whole teaching thing. Like, it's true, I just don't remember why I was telling you. And I just want to prove that I'm a real person and normal. So that's why I poured water down myself trying to drink, because I didn't want you to feel left out. So one of the things that I like to do is share with people not only the information, but how to get the information. Because unless I'm already awake, I don't really need a call at 3 in the morning saying, I'm having this problem and I can't remember what you said. So if I teach you how to fish, it'll be better than me because I've never caught a fish, but I can teach you how to I can teach you how to go to the website. So this is just the Aroma Essentials collection. But what I also wanted to show you is this. Nope, that's the same one. This one. All right, and if you look, it says the education. And so it's got a little bit extra. And the way that I found it is in the search bar, I just typed in aroma essentials, and then I don't remember whether it was one of the options. So I
You're muted.
Thank you. My internet kicked me off. How rude of it. Okay, so the way that I found this was I just typed in the search bar the aroma essentials, and it came up as one of the options that I was able to choose. And the thing that I like about this one, I'm not quite sure why it keeps, I'm going to minimize that, going back and forth, but what I like about this one is that it has a picture of each of the oils as well as a learn more tab. And so one of the things that doTERRA has is they're called, if you were to look on a screen, all right, let's say, okay. So let's say I'm like, oh yes, I want to know more about On Guard. So I click here on the On Guard, and it will take me to the On Guard page. And down here, so it'll talk about a little bit about it and the price and the information, and then it describes it. You've got primary benefits, and then way down here under more information, there's a little thing that you can click on that says PIP. That's product information page. And so when you click on that, it will open up a PDF file. So let me see, here's On Guard. And the nice thing about these is that they're put out from doTERRA company. And so everything on there is stated in a way where we're not making medical claims that we're not supposed to and things like that. But it should look familiar because this is just what it said on the website, but this is a page that you could print out, but also that you could send to someone. So it has the ingredients, so wild orange, clove, cinnamon, cinnamon bark, eucalyptus, and rosemary. These little buttons, they're not buttons, but symbols stand for the different ways that you can use the oil. So A is aromatic, T is topically, I is internally, and S is, oh, it's sensitivity. So that is because it's got some spicier oils like the cinnamon and cinnamon bark. And so some skin might be a little bit sensitive. And so then you'd want to mix it with some sort of carrier oil like coconut oil or something like that, olive oil, just depending on what you have. All right. So, okay. And we talked last week about how to get the oils into our house. So we're going to cover that towards the end. And so if I should I forget, feel free to remind me. Also, if I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about that, we don't talk about that, I would love for you to say, hey, we're going to talk about this. I appreciate all the help I can get. So what I've done is I just went through and I wrote down the oils as they appeared on the list. And the interesting thing is that typically with when you buy a kit from doTERRA, it's typically about half and half. Half of them are just plain oils, and then the other half are blends. This one, however, is meant for, it's why it's called the Aroma Essentials Kit, is that it's meant for aromatic consumption, so smelling it. And so interestingly, only 2 of the 10 oils are just the actual plain oil. The rest are blends. And so that is really interesting and exciting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and let me see. So they have like the aroma for peppermint is minty, clearing, cooling. And so each one of these has just like a very small snippet. And they do have videos for a lot of them. Because I'm on this laptop, it is not showing them as an option, but they're definitely an option. And these are, I'm just very excited at the range of oils that that come. It's just a very wide variety of scents. And then this last one is the diffuser that comes with the kit, and it's called Lil Booze. And it's nice because it comes, I believe, maybe it doesn't come in black. Maybe it only comes in white. I think maybe it only comes in white. But it works. It's great because it's got like the 3 different light switches, and that it can, it's got different settings so that you can have it run all night versus, you know, just for a few hours. And just something else, if let's say that you have already, you already have a diffuser, or let's say that you are saving up to get a kit, and right now you have maybe a couple of essential oils that you're like, well, you know, I'm interested in them, I want to try them, and so you've dipped your toe in, and you're not a wholesale member yet, so you're just buying retail, and so maybe you don't have a diffuser. One of the things is that you can always use your hands, maybe not always, but your hands make a really good diffuser. So if you put a drop of oil on your hand, so here I've got just a bottle, Console. It's not one of the ones, but I can put a drop on my hand, and that's topically. But then when I rub my hands together and inhale, that's aromatically. And so a lot of times you're going to be getting the oils in more than just one way. All right, I am going to stop the sharing, but not the caring. Okay, so I'm just going to go through in the Essential Emotions book and just do a little snippet of these. And a couple of these are brand new oils that were created after this book was written. So I don't have an emotional, it doesn't have a page yet, but because of the oils that are in it, I can tell you what oil, what emotions that could serve. All right, so peppermint is the first oil, and they have these arranged so that it goes by, first you have all your single oils, all the single oils are in the front. And then the next section has the blends. So I'm just going to do the 2 single oils first. Now I've got that going through my head every time I say single oils. Hopefully you've got it going through your head too, so you know, part doesn't want to be alone. Okay, let me see. There we go. So peppermint is the oil of a buoyant heart. And peppermint brings joy and buoyancy to the heart and soul. It invigorates mind, body, and spirit, and reminds individuals that life can be happy and they don't have to be controlled by fear. And so it goes through and talks, and the negative emotions that peppermint is good for relieving is unbearable anguish, intense despair, heavy-hearted, pessimistic, or sad. And the positive properties are buoyant, optimistic, relieved, strength to face the emotional pain, and let me see. Some of these have 2 pages. No. And one of the things that's interesting when you're using peppermint for the physical properties, it's kind of like the little red sports car. It takes whatever oil is with it and kind of zips it around to where it needs to be. And emotionally, it kind of takes a sad heart and zips it around so that you're in a more positive place. One of the warnings that it talks about, which is interesting because most oils don't come with an emotional warning, is that sometimes when pain is really intense, it's okay to avoid it for a little while, but eventually you need to deal with it. And it reminds me of when you are, when you're going to go weed, let's say your garden, if it hasn't rained for a long time or it's very dry, it's really hard to weed. So if you spray the weeds with some water, let it sit for a little bit, then go back and weed, it's much easier to pull those weeds. Now, the problem is if you never go back to pull the weeds, you've just watered the weeds, which is not what you want. So that's kind of similar with essential oils. Essential oils helps us deal with the emotions, but by themselves, they don't necessarily change the emotions. And so if you never actually deal with the emotions, you're like, well, I'm using the oil, I don't know what the problem is. It could be that you're just watering weeds and you need to go actually and rip the weeds out of the ground. Okay. So this is the emotions wheel, and it comes with the emotion. Well, you can purchase it with the emotions book. They're meant to be used together. And so this is not the most current one. And you can tell because of the colors. So this was the ones from a year or 2 ago. Oh, 2017, a couple of years ago. Oh, no, that's when the company was. It's like, I'm pretty sure that I used this before. And what this does is it, on the blue side, it has negative emotions. And on the yellow side, it has positive emotions. So let's say that I'm feeling, I don't know, what am I'm just gonna, unfulfilled. Then I can look over and follow over and it says neroli. And so then I can go and look up more information on neroli or just put that on. Or let's say that I'm like, you know what, I just want to be happier. And so I can come over here to joy it. And it has like all these different ways of joy. Do you want to be playful or uplifted, carefree, creative, cheerful, abundant, grateful, buoyant, sweet, spontaneous? Well, spontaneous, I seem to kind of have pat down, so I don't know that I need a whole lot of help with that. But let's say that I just would like to feel more abundant. Then I look at abundant and walk and go the other way, and it says wild orange. So it's like, oh, so then I can use wild orange, which is great if you're going through stuff, if you're like spring cleaning and you're trying to get rid of stuff. Diffusing wild orange while you're doing that is great because it basically tells your subconscious, like, it's okay to let stuff go because something better is coming. So there you go. All righty. And the cool thing too with the oils is typically when you use an oil, you may be using it specifically for a certain emotion or for a certain physical aspect. But a lot of times what happens is it helps with both. So, let's say that, I'm really upset because something negative has happened. And so I'm using the peppermint to help me feel more happy. Well, sometimes when I get upset, my stomach decides that it's going to join in the pity party, and it starts feeling upset too. And so when I put the peppermint on my hands and rub it together, immediately it gets into my pores and starts sending it into my system. And then my body's like, oh, you know what? We could use it down here. Send that to the stomach. Okay, it goes down. And then I'm like, oh, wow, my tummy's feeling better. Oh, good. So we might be using it for one thing, and you'll find that it benefits another. I know when I first started, I had my essential oils book, and so I was feeling a little bit, my stomach was not very happy that morning, and I typically don't have stomach issues, so that was kind of odd. And so I'm like, okay, so I just look it up, and I didn't have a ton of oils. I just had like the bare minimum kit, and I looked up and it said lavender. And I remember saying this out loud, like, it cannot possibly work because I've already used lavender for 5 different things. Lavender is not going to help, and I will prove it. So I put it on to prove that it didn't work. And like within 10 minutes, I was downstairs having breakfast. So it worked. But it's also very emotionally calming, which is really nice. So they work together. Alrighty, balance. Nope, we're going to do wild orange. Plus, we were just talking about that. So wild orange is the oil of abundance. Wild orange abundance. Okay, and there is like a whole page for all of these oils. So, and just due to time, which I've covered by my clock, but I can, okay, we've got time. We'll make time. So wild orange is, it addresses a wide variety of emotional issues. It inspires abundance, fosters creativity, and supports a positive mood. Wild orange is also reconnects individual with their inner child and brings spontaneity, fun, joy, and playfulness into one's life. My friend calls wild orange the happifier, and I like that. I kind of think like, you know, I'm kind of the happifier in my life too. So at the core, wild orange teaches the true meaning of abundance. It encourages individuals to let go of scarcity mindsets with all of their manifestations, including fear, nervousness, inflexibility, workaholism, lack of humor. It worked. I've got good humor. And the belief that there is not enough. Wild orange reminds the soul of the limitless supply found in nature. Fruit trees, like the orange tree, give freely to all in need. This oil teaches the individual to go throughout, to give up. This teaches individuals to give without thought of compensation. In nature, there is always enough to go around. Wild orange encourages individuals to let go of their need to hoard, which is the epitome of scarcity. We should be diffusing this in my house because we could definitely use that part. Wild oranges also assists in an individual's natural creative sense. It inspires limitless solutions for problems and issues. One never needs to live in fear. Wild orange invites individuals to completely let go, as a child does, and live from their true self. At a person's core, they are abundance, sharing, playing, relaxing, and enjoying the bounties of life. These are the gifts bestowed by the wild orange oil. So that's just a little write-up that they have. And so for negative emotions that it helps with is scarcity, overly serious, rigid, dull, workaholic, lack of energy, discouraged, hoarding, envious. Positive properties, abundance, sense of humor, playful, generous, spontaneous, creative, joyful. And so one of the things too that I find is when reading through, there's very rarely a time that I read through something and say, yep, none of that applies to me. So typically I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that done, like check. And I was like, oh, that's a good reason to be using that. I should use that more. So I feel like one of the benefits that I get from teaching is that I'm constantly looking at the oils at a new way. And so it continues to help me learn about how I can make my life and the life of those around me better. All right, So now we are going to go to balance. All right. So balance is primarily a combination of tree oils and roots. Trees live in the present moment. They are not in a hurry. They are stable. Balance's soft energy is excellent for calming overactive children who have difficulty settling down. It is also a wonderful remedy for those who need to reconnect with their roots. Balance strengthens the connection with the lower body and with the earth. These connections are especially important when the upper faculties have been overused due to excessive thinking, speaking, or spiritual activity. This is really a great oil for those who are going through the grieving process, typically like, through death, but some sort of separation. One of the things that I really like about knowing the oils, learning the oils, is that it makes it so that it's, I can, what's a good word, utilize, just I can make it more effective, it's more efficacious. So like one of the things is I typically have at least 2 or 3 oils in my pockets at all times. And the cool thing is that because I typically know what oils are in the blends, or I can always look and read what oils are in the blends, is instead of having like 2 oils in my pocket, I've actually got like 10 oils in my pocket, but I don't have to be carrying around all 10 oils. So like one of the oils that I carry around, Clary Calm, has lavender in it. So I was at a restaurant and I burned my finger on a hot dish, and I didn't have lavender with me, but I know that there's lavender in Clary Calm. So I was able to just put a little bit of Clary Calm on my finger, and the lavender totally took care of it, and it didn't hurt anymore. So knowing what oils will can help you know kind of how to use the oils and how it can help you both physically and emotionally. So I'm going to jump from balance, so it's a very grounding one, to Northern Escape. Now, Northern Escape is a very new oil, and I do not have, it's not in my book. I'm very sure it's not. But I can look at the oils. There's a couple of things that I can do. One is that I can go through and read the oils that are in it. So it's got black spruce, Siberian fir, balsam fir, lavender, cedarwood, cypress, hinoki wood, frankincense, Nootka, Kananga, and clove. So it's got a whole mouthful. But most of those are trees. And so one of the things that that when we were reading about balance, it mentioned is that trees are well grounded. They're planted. They've got their feet and their roots planted. I know that one of the oils that I was reading about one time was talking about how, I don't remember which tree oil it was, but it was saying that, even though it's planted and it's got deep roots and it can hold firm, it's not rigid because otherwise it would break. And so you can be well planted and still be flexible. And so sometimes just like looking at what's in a blend, you can figure out how to use it if you don't have that information. Now, typically with Google and everything else, if you don't know something, it's easy to find it. It's not like in the good old days where it's like, that one guy from that one movie? No. Okay, me either. And that's it, right? Now it's like, oh, what's your fingers broken? You don't know how to use Google? Blah, blah, blah. So it's a little bit more complicated, but we've got a lot of information. And so a lot of times I will Google, like I'll use, this is the concern that the person's having. So let's say that they're having upset stomach, and So I might put in like upset stomach, best essential oil, and then it will bring up different options. And what I find is typically, like, we've got an oil called Digest Zen. So the word digest is in it. So that's a really big clue that that's going to help your digestive system, but you may not have it with you. And so by doing that, you can look and see what other oils are beneficial, and then you can kind of compare that to what you actually have. There's kind of an underlying statement that if you don't have the oil you want, use the oil you've got, because it's going to benefit some way. All right. Okay, breathe. So breathe is one of those oils that almost sounds self-explanatory. Breathe is the oil of breath. Surprise! There you go. You're welcome. No, all right. So breathe addresses the inability to let go of grief and pain. See, like, who would have thought of that? Like for me, I'm thinking like emotionally breathe. Like, okay, so what? I'm not panicking because I can breathe. Yeah. So like, I would not have thought of that. And so I love looking and finding different ways that the oils can help. And I also find that at different times when I have different needs, I can read the same, like there's like 2 paragraphs. It's not like there's, it's not like there's 25 paragraphs, but I'll read it one time when I'm having an issue and certain parts stick out. And then I'll read it again later on when I've got something else. I'm like, I think they changed the wording in here because I really don't remember that. So if that happens, typically I know it's me. It's not the book. No one's coming in changing words in the middle of the night. That'd be a cool trick, but no, they're not. Harry Potter does not live in my world currently. So, aloha mora. Yeah, nothing happened. Okay. But it does talk. So the lungs and air passages become constricted, preventing air and the emotion from releasing. The root of this condition is a feeling of unloved. I would not have thought of that. Individuals grieve the love that they never received. They often shut down due to fear, not knowing whether the love they need will be there. They distrust whether it's safe to open and take the air in. Breathe encourages individuals to release grief and sadness and to receive genuine love and healing. So even though it seems like breathe would be, obviously just make you feel good about breathing, when you read this, it's like, wow, okay, that's really cool. So this book is not one that you can get at doTERRA, but anywhere like Aroma Tools or Oil Life, where you get other, that's where I get most of my books and literature, as well as like, little containers for, different ways. Anyway, so, and I can text you, or, Carlin can text you the link to that store. All right. Let's see, breathe, citrus bloom. So that's a brand new one too here. Oh, adaptive, let's go back. So adaptive is a fairly new oil, and it also has a supplement, and it's the oil of adaptability. And it was formulated to assist with anxious states. So that's kind of like the whole reason that it was created. And so it has got like a 2-page spread because there's so much great information. So it just says it imparts reassurance and calm when an individual is caught in cycles of constriction, tension, worry, solicitude, or uneasiness. When an individual has experienced prolonged stress or traumatic experiences, the mind-body responds by becoming hypervigilant in order to protect them from harm. This state is antithetical to well-being and well-functioning. Adaptive helps individuals adapt to stressors and fears in more clear, constructive, confident ways. So I was in an accident like 5 years ago, and was pretty jumpy when I would ride in the car. So that was like, at first. So now it's been 5 years. I can handle driving, I can handle riding in the car. But about a month, 6 weeks ago, I was in a much smaller accident. And it's really interesting because I was driving the other day and someone came in out of my blind spot. I mean, they're in the whole lane next to me. It's not like I was in any sort of danger. And immediately my body's like, I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going on? Chill out. What's that? Right? And so that's just kind of a natural response because that's your protective system kicking in, because you almost, it associates it with harm or, near death. It's like a fender bender. It's not near death, but your subconscious doesn't necessarily know that. And so adaptive is a great oil to help going through that process. So I take the pills as well as use the oil. So the negative emotions that adaptive deals with is anxious, uneasy, worried, self-critical, obsessing, controlling, and fearful. And the positive properties that it gives is reassured, calm, clear, confident, self-acceptance, liberated, trusting, upheld, safe. All right, let's do cheer. All right, cheer to cheer. Here's the oil of cheerfulness. Go cheer. This blend of citrus and spices was formulated to assist those who are in need of cheerfulness. Yes, it is especially helpful for individuals who feel heavy-hearted or who have been weighed down by many challenges in life. Encountering repeated trials, often over an extended period of time, can have crippling effects and may even create expectation of permanent suffering with no hope of relief. Cheer is part of a kit of emotional aromatherapy. So there's 6 different oils. It's console, peace, forgive, cheer, motivate, passion. And what I found is, and I call it the reverse rainbow. So like each of the oils has a little sticker on. So I do kind of like the reverse rainbow. So I start with purple and go through to red. And what I find is that doing that, like especially like just doing a drop of each of them on your hands or on the hand of someone that you're with, is enough. It takes them through the entire emotional spectrum. So no matter where they are on that, and takes them through the emotions and gets them to the other side where they can, be happy and motivated and excited. I've had people that were really dealing with some hard things, or I had a friend who was like, couldn't stop crying. He's like, I don't even know why I'm crying. So we did that, and by the end, we were joking around. So it's just, it's one of my favorite ways of, helping people kind of go through the entire spectrum of emotions. And so the cheer has wild orange, clove, star anise, lemon, nutmeg, vanilla, ginger, and cinnamon. And in the literature for the aromatherapy, the essential aromatherapy, it shows that it has this wheel, and so each of the oils are a blend of 2 different types. So like console, I think is floral and maybe grass. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but it has 2 different things. So like this cheer is like the citrus and the spice. All right, let's see, citrus bloom. So that is another one that I don't have a page for, but we do have citrus bliss. And so citrus bloom is wild orange, grapefruit, lavender, Roman chamomile, and magnolia. So you've got the citrus oils that are going to be very uplifting and happifying. And then you've got the florals, which are going to be calming, and they smell good. I can't remember what else to say. All right. And then, oh, my battery's running low. How low will it go? All right, I'm going to plug in my PC. Hold, please. Oh, I have to go over the back. There we go. If you're wondering, yes, groaning actually does help. I highly recommend it because I can't help it. All right. Oops. Little thing going on. All righty. Now let's see. Okay, now I can see the time. Okay. All right. On guard is the next one that I'm just going to do these next two a little bit quickly because then I've got some other information. So On Guard is the oil of protection. And this combination of oils is generally used to shield individuals from harmful threats like bugs type thing. This blend's protective properties, however, extend beyond the physical level by aiding individuals in warding off energetic parasites, domineering personalities, and other negative influences. On Guard strengthens one's immune system, which governs the ability to defend against attack from both physical and negative energies. On Guard is incredibly helpful for strengthening the inner self along with inner resolve to stand up for oneself and live in integrity. This blend is especially indicated for personalities who have weakened boundaries due to some kind of perpetual violation to their personal space. On Guard gives individuals the strength to say no and resolve to maintain clear boundaries. It cuts away unhealthy connections such as codependency, parasitic relationships, or emotional viruses found in negative group thought. On Guard greatly assists individuals in learning to stand up for themselves and live in integrity with their true self. One of the ways that I like to use On Guard as to protect myself is, and we're going to talk about this in just a second, really, a little bit more about how to protect yourself emotionally. And so one of the ways that you can use the oils is for aromatically is taking like a glass bottle and putting in, you fill it up with water and then add some drops of essential oil. And you can use that to like spritz the room, spritz the air. You can use it, if you can add some witch hazel to it. Do like a fine aerosol. Except for it's not aerosol, but it replaces the other air freshening type products that you might be using. But one of the things that I like to do is I will just take some On Guard on my hands and rub it around and just kind of go around in a circle and just kind of get the On Guard oil in my bubble in like my space with the intention that it will protect me so that it will let through all the positive and anything negative will bounce off. All right. And then the last one is Serenity. Okay, Serenity. Serenity is the oil of tranquility. So Serenity has a powerful effect on the mind and heart. It has a uniquely calming blend that invites individuals to relinquish feelings of stress, anxiousness, and being overwhelmed. Serenity can support those who struggle with an overactive mind and inability to unwind. From feelings of responsibility to feelings of worry, Serenity assists in quieting the mind, releasing agitation, and inviting calm. So those are the 10 oils that are in the Aroma Essential Collection. And now I just wanted to go through and spend this next little bit just talking about toxic personalities or toxic relationships, because you can have someone in your life that is not a toxic person, but they might be toxic for you. And so one of the things is with the 3 ways to use the oils, aromatically is really the best way to use the oil to help support emotional, whether it's emotional growth or change, but just for emotions. And so a few things to kind of come realize about toxic relationships or people is that enough is never going to be enough. Um, Typically, you can't do it perfectly enough. You can't do it fast enough, right enough, whatever. It will never be enough. And so one of the things is by realizing that, that's like step number one. Step number two means if enough is never going to be enough, you get to decide what enough is. And so the way that I look at it is I decide, what would a good person do? And that has to be enough. So, I've got, let's say I've got someone who is a toxic person in my in my neighborhood or something. And what I needed to do is decide, okay, this is what a good person would do, and that has to be enough. And we don't. I love all of our neighbors, but let's say that you've got a neighbor that doesn't matter how you mow your lawn or when you mow your lawn or whatever, they're whine, complain. So that's the case where you get to decide when enough is enough and what is enough. And a lot of times it can be your kids, it can be a spouse. So one of the things is, so when you are talking about someone else's problems, life is so much easier because you're not emotionally attached. And so it's much easier to say, oh, if this person is annoying you, just don't go around that person. Yeah, that seems like it would work, except for, maybe you're, married to this person, or you've given birth to this person. And so you kind of feel the need to still be around. And so that's when you decide what is enough. And so two of the emotional protective oils that are in this kit, we've talked about. One is the On Guard, is using that as a protector. And so one of the things is, putting that in a diffuser. Sometimes at work, depending on your work, they will let people have diffusers, and sometimes they have rules against it. And a lot of times that's because with like different scents, like with candle scents and things like that, they're not natural, and so they can easily trigger like physical responses, like sensations of like irritated eyes or sinus or whatever. And so because of that irritated breathing, they may have decided that no one can do that. So if that's the case, one of the things is that the cool thing is typically because the oils are pure, and we talked a little bit more about that last week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But because that the oils are pure, and they're certified pure therapeutic grade, people typically don't have a negative physical response, like it doesn't attack the any of the systems. So, but one of the things that you can do is your hair is a hollow shaft, and so it makes a great diffuser. And so you can just put like a little bit on your fingertips and just rub it, in your hair, and then or like if you're a guy, you can rub it, if you've got a beard or a goatee or something, you can put it there, and it will hold the scent for a while, and letting you do that. The other one that would be good for protection, for emotional protection, is the Northern Escape, because all the tree, not tree roots, the tree oils are very protective and shielding, and grounding, and so it can help you deal with toxic people. Okay, so now that we know how to deal with the people and these relationships, there's still the aftermath to deal with, which is, you may, as you learn, you realize, hopefully you continue to learn things. You're like, oh, I could have handled that better. Or, next time that comes up, I'm going to do it this way. But that doesn't change what happened in the past. And so there's a few things that, a few tools that I like to use. And one is cancel, cancel, cancel. So let's say that I have an argument with my sister, like when I was little. And let's say I was going through the attic and I found this toy or whatever, and it triggers that memory. And my brain is like, I can't, I was so mad at her, blah, 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 and it's going off. And that's just taking of energy and using energy that I wanted to use for something else. And it's just kind of on a runaway train. And so I just say to myself, like, cancel, cancel, cancel. I typically don't say it out loud. If it's like a really big thing, sometimes I do. Or, if I'm by myself, then it's fine. But I have found that that can be quite effective. Another thing is visualizing letting go. And so there's lots of ways to do that. And this is, okay, let's say that I have someone in the past that I was romantically inclined towards, shall we say. And anyways, every now and then, let's say my thoughts tend to wander down yonder and say, well, if this, that, and the other would have changed, then this could happen, and blah, 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 blah. And so one of the things that I have done is visualizing letting go. And there's lots of different ways to let go. So like you can like picture it like a balloon and letting it go and getting smaller and smaller. And, just one of the ways that I like to do it is close my eyes, take a deep breath, and just picture myself in some sort of scene in nature. You can do like a kite, like on the beach, and you let go of the kite and it goes flying away. Right now, I kind of see things as almost like a belt, like I don't know, like a spider web. And so like people that I have a lot of interactions with, it's a thicker strand, and people that, I don't even really remember, but I've interacted with them, and like, maybe they said something mean at work when I used to work at some place 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And if I let it, I can, get thinking about that. So one of the things that I do is I have done a couple things. One is you can take like a pair of scissors in your head and like just like snip the cord, snip the wire. But what I'm currently doing, and with these things, these are things that I've done over time, and some of them work great for me because I'm a visual thinker, and some of them do not work because that's just not my style. And vice versa. I've got some of these things that work great for me. Other people are like, how am I supposed to visualize? Like, that's just weird and blah, blah, blah. So, but one of the things that I kind of visualize now is like in Cinderella, the fairy godmother with her magic wand, is that like I visualize that I have these strands of everybody that I've connected with in my life. And if they're dark, that means that there's some sort of negative thing. And so instead of cutting it out, I take my magic wand and I just kind of bibbity bobbity boop the strand, and it lightens, and it goes light on both ways. And sometimes it like lightens and it thins it out and it floats away. And other times, if their person is still in my life, then it lightens it. So that's just okay. So those are two little things for visualization. Alrighty. Class might be a few minutes long. It's worth it. I do try to keep it to under an hour, but okay. With the past, there are only two healthy things you can do with the past, and that is learn from it and you forgive it. And anything else you're doing with the past is not healthy. That being said, that doesn't mean you're not going to do it. It just means that it's not necessarily a healthy thing. So like, especially if you have like a recent heartbreak, that you may, kind of get stuck in the, well, what ifs and, other type of thinking. And it's not that that's not going to happen, but if you can go to it and think, okay, what can I learn from this? And then forgive it. And I've just done, and I tell myself, I'm like, okay, that was a really stupid thing I did back when I was, 18, but okay, I've learned from it. I've never done that since, and I forgive it. And like, for me, I'm like, I forgive myself, I forgive the other person, I forgive the whole situation. And for me, it seems like the bigger the issue is, the more times it's going to take. It's not like I can do it one time and suddenly I'm completely devoid of that, that emotional attachment to the negative things. So, all right. Oh, there was something else that I was going to tell you about beforehand. So we're going to jump back. One of the things with dealing with toxic people is that a lot of times, oh, actually, I do have it. Okay, actually, I moved it. That's why I didn't do it before, because I moved it. All right, so I'm going to do one other thing first, and then we'll end with that. And that is one of the things that I love is, so Ben Franklin had this guy who was on the political opposite side of him and was just being a real pain in the neck, and like would go out of his way to be negative to Benjamin Franklin. And he would print things in the newspaper that were mean and negative about Benjamin Franklin. And finally, Benjamin Franklin, it was a smart guy who was thinking about it. And he's like, okay, you know what? I need to ask him for a favor. Now that seems like so counterintuitive. Like if you've got someone who's being mean to you, to ask them to do a favor for you, it's like, hey, I know you're being really mean to me, but I was wondering if you could give me a ride. Like that does not seem. But what he did was he talked to the man and said, I hear that you have got this amazing library, and I've always wanted to read this book. And so told me that you had it. And so I was wondering if you would be so kind as to lend me the book so that I could read it. And this guy who had been this bitter enemy against Benjamin Franklin was like, oh, yeah, okay. And he lent him this book, and they became like really great friends. And instead of attacking him in the paper, he would like campaign for him for different government jobs. And so that's like one of the things that I feel like if you can learn from other people's mistakes, then maybe you don't have to go through them yourself. Because, I figure I'm making enough mistakes of my own. So if I can learn from someone else's, so much the better. So, and I have done that. It is kind of difficult, and it seems very counterintuitive, but and I find, especially like if you're struggling with family members, that this is a great way to do it. And another thing with toxic relationships, just because you've got, okay, there's two different things. You've got someone who's a toxic person, and they're not really going to change, but you may have someone in your family that for a period of time you tend to have a toxic relationship, but that can change. So there are two different things going on there, which ties into, as I pour water on my face, which ties to my last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is that there are two different programs, and frequently, especially with kids and teenagers, but now that I'm kind of like the middle generation, it's so funny because like some of the things that my parents told me growing up, I'm now saying to my parents. It's like, and so we had some friends over who are my parents' age, and the guy was like, yeah, I told my kids, unless you start paying me allowance, I don't have to do what you say. So I thought, I like that. But one of the things that is really a good thing to remember is that there's two separate programs. There is the I love you program and there is the I trust you program. And they are completely different because you can love someone and absolutely not trust them. And you can really, really dislike someone, but trust them that they're going to do what they say. And that might be being mean to you, but you know that they're going to do what they say. And so, but what happens a lot of times is, you know, when we're young and when we're teenagers and kids, we tend to do this, but it's like, well, if you loved me, you would let me drive the car. Well, we tried that and I do love you and you crashed the car. And so I love you, but I don't trust you to drive the car. So you're going to have to earn back the trust. And so they're two separate things. And a lot of times when you have these emotionally toxic people or emotional toxic relationships, they want to put that in the blender and say, no, 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 no. I love you equals I trust you. And no, 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 no. We're talking two totally separate things. And they can try to make it into a smoothie and blend it all up, but it's still two separate things. And so it's important to realize and remember that, you know, I can love you and care about you and still, you know, I've got someone in my life that drives me up the wall. I've got a couple of them right now. Maybe it's me. But anyways, I love them dearly, but holy cow, they drive me nuts. And so I'm kind of loving them dearly from a little bit of a distance so that I don't say something that I don't regret, because you can't take back words unless you have a magic wand that works. I do not yet have one of those. If you do, then you can probably get away with it. But for the rest of us that live in the real world, we can't go back and erase words. And so I would much rather kind of put myself distant so I'm emotionally more in control and I don't say something that I later regret. Because a lot of times, especially with family members, unless they're really a toxic person, you can have a toxic relationship. So like, let's say like when I was growing up, like I'm the oldest and then I've got sisters who are 17 months younger than I am and they're twins. And so when I was little, I would, you know, kind of like play, when we were like, just like as a family, I would kind of do my own thing because they were best friends and they'd pal around. Well, every now and then they'd get in a fight and who'd ever come and be my friend first, I would now have a new friend for a couple of weeks. And then they would forgive each other and then they'd go play back together and ignore me. And so, but that's one of the things that I learned is that, you know, just because they're being mean to me now doesn't mean they're going to be mean to me forever. Hopefully that's the case. If you've got someone who's being mean to you forever, you may seriously want to look at putting some distance between you. And another thing, and this is my last thing. Oh, and we're 5 minutes over. So thank you for saying, is that this goes back to the, what would a good person do? Is that a lot of times, you know, an emotionally toxic person with the enough is never going to be enough. They do not need you to offer a club and say, here, beat me with this club. And because like me being stoic and taking the beating means that I'm a good person. No, 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 no. You're a good person, period. You know, because you're wonderful, you're a good person. And it has nothing to do with anything you've done, just intrinsically value-wise, you are a wonderful person. And so it's important though to protect yourself. And so you want to make sure that you're not handing out clubs to people. So like I said, like putting a little bit of distance between. So, alrighty, that is the class for the night. Let me go ahead and I'll open it up to any questions or comments. I see that everyone has left the screen. That's okay. You're listening from a distance. You're in a different screen. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I know that sometimes you have to, you know, you get called out and you have to go. It's bad if you're the teacher and you get called out. So it's been a good class. I didn't have to leave. So anyways, thank you so much for coming. And I will put the recording of this up on Facebook so that if you've got someone that you think would enjoy this or this would be beneficial to them, that you could send it to them and they could watch it. So anyways, thank you so much for coming and we will talk to you. Any questions or anything before I go?
Nope. Thank you, Kaylin.
Okay, you bet. Thanks so much for coming.